Number 8. Meagan Hall. A Tennessee cop was fired from her job after it was discovered that she had sex with several police officers while on duty in 2022. 26-year-old Meagan Hall was confronted by an internal investigator when she finally came clean about the inappropriate affairs. She explained how things spiraled out of control as she was on the verge of divorce from her husband. According to the transcript, Meagan became desperate and made some stupid decisions, claiming that guys are guys and they'll stick their DK in anything. After the confession, Meagan sat down with Andrew Patton, the department's head of HR. She was interviewed 3 separate times, and in one of their meetings, she admitted to having intercourse with Sergeant Lewis Powell inside of a police station. She told Patton that problems in her marriage sparked the affair and the fling simply involved a lot of sex. When Meagan tried ending things with Powell, it allegedly became toxic. The man threatened to end his own life by getting into a car crash after drinking a bottle of Jack Daniel's whiskey. Despite this, the two ended their relationship after Meagan said she was already seeing someone else. This statement was actually true. She was intimate with her co-worker, Officer Larry Holliday, and even had a threesome with Officer Patrick Magliocco and his wife. There were other officers too. Meagan detailed how she tried to convince her husband into a so-called wife swap with Magliocco's wife, but was unsuccessful. As a result of the sex scandal, Meagan was fired, along with 4 other officers: Detective SENECA Shields, Lewis Powell, Juan Lugo, and Ty McGowan. 2 other cops involved in the situation, Patrick Magliocco and Larry Holliday, kept their jobs but were suspended. Shockingly, even after the woman's affairs went public, Meagan and her husband are trying to stay together and plan on going to couples therapy. Number 7. SHAWN SMOOT. In 2016, a married man who owned an insurance office in Knoxville, Tennessee, killed his mistress after she told his wife about their office affair. 44-year-old SHAWN SMOOT was being intimate with his beautiful employee named Brooke Morris. It was just for fun at first, but things quickly got complicated after he unintentionally caught feelings. Because of this, SHAWN's marriage fell apart, allowing the lovers to be together. But these deeper feelings weren't reciprocated by Brooke, who wasn't ready for the commitment and was looking for a way out of the relationship. SHAWN wouldn't accept her wishes though, and decided their affair wasn't over until he said so. SHAWN and his wife, Michelle Hall, were having issues getting pregnant, but they'd decided to use a sperm donor, which actually worked. With a new baby on the way, Michelle thought things were perfect with her husband, but she had no idea what was really happening. In 2010, the man started sleeping with Brooke, who was only 23 at the time. But by January 2011, things had gotten bad in their secret relationship, and Brooke decided to tell Michelle. After confronting her husband, Michelle was met with a list of sorry excuses, but she could tell he was just trying to cover his tracks. The next day, SHAWN and Michelle's marriage was officially over. SHAWN was angry that Brooke had exposed their affair, but he was even more upset that she no longer wanted to be with him. So he shot her to death and left her body on a road outside of Knoxville. It didn't take long for police to suspect SHAWN given Brooke and his relationship, and in the end, he was found guilty of first-degree murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. He was also ordered to pay $2 million in compensation to the young woman's family. Number 6. Savannah Gold. After 21-year-old Savannah Gold disappeared on her way to work in Jacksonville, Florida, her parents received a suspicious text message from her full of spelling mistakes in August 2017. Savannah worked as a waitress at the Bonefish Grill, and on the day she went missing, was scheduled to work at 5:30 p.m. She left home around 5:15 p.m., dressed in black pants and shoes with a chef's jacket, but she never made it to the grill. Savannah's co-workers contacted her family to find out where she was, but they had no idea. Her parents, Sharon and Daniel, grew even more concerned after receiving a strange text message. The text was sent from Savannah's phone, and it said that she'd met a really great guy and the two of them were running away together. Another message was sent to Savannah's brother, Chris, once again filled with mistakes, saying the same thing. Immediately, the girl's family knew Savannah hadn't sent the texts herself. They were horribly written and had a completely different tone than what she typically used. There was also no way Savannah would leave for work and meet a guy just to drop everything and leave. Things just weren't adding up. Savannah was reported as a missing person and officers began investigating. The girl's car was discovered in the parking lot of the Bonefish Grill, and her ID and wallet were also inside. One of the vehicle's front tires had also been slashed, but Savannah was nowhere in sight. She wasn't posting on social media and she wasn't answering her phone, but someone had texted her family, possibly the same person who'd taken her. Investigators searched through surveillance footage from outside the grill on the day of the incident. It showed Savannah pulling into the parking lot before her shift, but when she got out of the vehicle, instead of going inside, she approached another car and spoke with the person behind the wheel. After a moment, she got into the car's passenger seat. It seemed like the pair were talking, but then the car suddenly began to shake. Car doors opened and closed, and it seemed like a struggle was going on inside. When the vehicle finally stopped moving, the man got out and slashed the tire on Savannah's car. He then got back in his car and drove away, presumably with Savannah still inside since she never got out. The man was later identified as 28-year-old Lee RODARTE, one of the girl's co-workers. He apparently had an on and off again relationship with the young woman and confessed to killing her after the two of them got into an argument that day. He then led the police to a lake where he'd stashed the girl's remains. Savannah's body had been set on fire at some point and was badly burned, but she was recovered by divers on August 5, 2017. As a result, RODARTE was handed 40 years in prison. Number 5. Luis Toledo. In 2014, a woman from Deltona, Florida was killed by her gang member husband after he realized she was having an affair. Not only was 28-year-old Yesenia SUAREZ murdered, but so were her children, Talia and Michael Otto, who were only 9 and 8 years old. Before the killings, Yesenia was involved in a romantic affair with a co-worker, and the two of them planned to run away together. Yesenia's lover was interviewed by investigators and said that Luis found out in the weeks leading up to her death. Luis, a known gang member, was apparently enraged by his wife's infidelity. Yesenia's lover claimed that Luis slapped her in the face after discovering the affair. He said he last spoke with his secret girlfriend at around 1 a.m. on the day she disappeared when she allegedly apologized to him and said he didn't need to worry. But she ended the conversation admitting that she was the one who had to look over her shoulder. Unfortunately, not even 24 hours later, both Yesenia and her children went missing. To this day, Luis has refused to tell investigators where his wife's body is, although he's confessed to killing her. The 31-year-old gang member denied murdering her children, whose remains have also not been found. Luis was sentenced to 3 consecutive life sentences in 2018 for what he did. What would you do if you found out your spouse was cheating? Let us know in the comments. Leave a like and subscribe if you're enjoying the video so far. Number 4. Joshua Johnson. In mid-2022, 17-year-old Riley Whitelaw from Colorado was killed by her older co-worker, 28-year-old Joshua Johnson, after rejecting his romantic advances. Whitelaw and Johnson worked at a Walgreens in Colorado Springs. Everyone there knew how uncomfortable Johnson made Whitelaw, and she'd even complained to her managers about him a year before the incident happened. Apparently, nothing noteworthy was done. According to reports from KKTV, one of the store's managers found Whitelaw's body in the break room at 7 p.m. She suffered significant trauma to her neck area, and there was a great deal of blood pooled around the victim's head. Whitelaw's radio earpiece and her ID badge were also found at her feet. On the day of the murder, Johnson was seen on surveillance video stacking boxes in front of the camera to try to block its view. He even taped paper over the windows to conceal his involvement in the crime. This attempt, thankfully, didn't work one bit. Johnson left the scene but was later stopped by state troopers while driving down Interstate 25. He had scratches all over his face and hands, presumably from Whitelaw trying to fight him off during the attack. He initially told police that he'd been attacked at the Walgreens and simply slipped and fell in the blood, but investigators weren't buying it. He was booked into an El Paso County jail on suspicion of first-degree murder. This case is ongoing, but if convicted, Johnson will serve a life sentence behind bars. Number 3. Jordan Carpenter. On October 24, 2022, 28-year-old Nicole Hammond was shot to death by her colleague, Jordan Carpenter, in St. Cloud, Minnesota. The murder happened in the parking lot of Dubois Textile, where both Hammond and Carpenter worked at around 7 a.m. Police arrived shortly after and discovered the woman's lifeless body on the pavement with a gunshot wound. Officers and emergency responders tried to save Hammond's life, but unfortunately, she didn't make it. By that time, Carpenter was long gone. Luckily, police managed to catch up with the 36-year-old in Sauk Rapids about 3 hours later. He was arrested on second-degree murder charges. Carpenter didn't initially admit to killing Hammond, but he did say he was walking in the direction of her car when the gun was fired. He claimed he only ran away because he was too traumatized after seeing her get shot. But officers were quick to point out that he didn't try to help or even call 911 to report the crime. Apparently, Hammond told Carpenter multiple times that she wasn't romantically interested in him, but he continued asking her out anyways. And according to text logs, she turned him down the night before the incident, asking him not to make things uncomfortable at work. The case is ongoing, but hopefully, justice will be served in the near future, and Carpenter will receive the consequences he rightfully deserves. Number 2. Tyler Lamar Jenkins. In early 2022, a sailor in the U.S. Navy was accused of killing his wife's lover after catching them in the act at the couple's home in Virginia. 26-year-old Tyler Lamar Jenkins has been charged with second-degree murder in connection to 28-year-old Timothy Paul Talley's death in Virginia Beach. Talley was also in the U.S. Navy and worked as an aviation machinist's mate. Jenkins' wife hasn't been named, but she was left unharmed during the incident. When Jenkins found his wife being intimate with another man in their bed, he completely lost it. As a result, Talley was shot 3 times and pronounced dead at the scene. The police were called to the home by Jenkins' wife, and as he was being led away by officers, he reportedly asked, "What am I doing wrong?" An outcome has not yet been reached for this case, but this brings up a question that not many people want to think about. What would you do if you were in Jenkins' shoes? Number 1. Helen Hewlett. 43-year-old Helen Hewlett from Fakenham, Norfolk, allegedly paid a hitman £20,000 to kill a co-worker she'd had a brief fling with back in 2022. Hewlett was apparently obsessed with 50-year-old Paul Belton, a man whom she'd stalked and made false allegations of sexual abuse against. After she was spurned romantically by him, she turned to the dark web. On a site called Online Killer Market, she posted an ad for a hitman and included her instructions for the job, stating that it needed to look like an accident. Shortly afterward, Hewlett was arrested after the police got an anonymous tip. Both Belton and Hewlett are married with children of their own, but after the two of them kissed in the parking lot of their workplace, she became absolutely obsessed with him, even though he insisted he wanted nothing to do with her. After all, he was married and so was she, and he instantly regretted the brief kiss. Hewlett made it her mission to make Belton's life hell after that, threatening him over email and posting about him online, even falsely reporting him for sexual harassment. The woman used up all her savings, loans, and overdraft to buy Bitcoin so she could order the hit on Belton's life. According to prosecutors, she transferred £20,547 into an online account along with Belton's name, his work and home addresses, and a picture of him, presumably so the hitman would know exactly what to do. At the moment, the case is ongoing, but hopefully, Hewlett will pay for her reckless behavior. What would you do if your married boss came on to you? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed today's video, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.